Greetings, Gateway Gators, and welcome to the first monthly bonus of the school year, our September monthly bonus. For those of you new to Gateway, every month I post a video that is related to some sort of garden or nature-related activity, from recipes and crafts to just getting out into nature and exploring and making some awesome observations. Now for this month, I kind of wanted to celebrate the fact that we are all avid readers or going to be avid readers by making our very own bookmarks. Now we are going to be doing bookmarks using pressed flowers, so I'm going to show you how I press my flowers at home and how we can create some pretty amazing art with them. Let's go ahead and do it! When it comes to choosing which flowers that you want to press, it's important to know that not every flower is created equal in the flower pressing world, and that is because some of them are thick and bulbous or have too much volume to them, and it makes it very difficult for them to press down and dry properly and to keep their color. So that means something like a straw flower, as pretty as it is dried, is not going to press very well because it is pretty thick and cannot really collapse down. Something like a pansy or violet, though, does such a great job when it comes to being pressed because they are nice and thin and can be flattened out, and they really keep their color. Now that I've plucked a few flower examples, and I'm going to show you how I press them, we're going to open up our book, lay out our parchment paper or our newspaper or any other paper that we have lying around, and make sure that it is covering both sides of the book. And then I'm going to start laying down my flowers one at a time, facing down. That helps to kind of situate them so that they actually stay down when they're being pressed and they don't fold in half and kind of get messed up. So something you can do also is just try to trim as much of the stem down as you can. Sometimes this means that your flower will fall apart, so just be careful. But I'm going to go ahead and face it down. I usually start from the crease and work my way out to make sure that I have plenty of space for all of my flowers. I have laid out a variety of different flowers here along with some fun little leaves and petals, and so now I am going to go ahead and slowly, delicately shut the paper, make sure it is all the way up to the edge, and then close my book. The best thing to do when it comes to these books is to make sure that you have other books stacked on top and give it a couple of weeks to truly dry out. Sometimes if your page is sticking out a little too, you can just gently slide it closer to the edge, and that way all of your flowers are going to be completely covered and pressed and dried. Now, while we have to wait a couple of weeks to make sure that our flowers are dry, I did plan on doing this video earlier in the summer, and so I made sure to press some flowers in order to be able to make some really fun bookmarks with you. Here, I'm going to go ahead and gently take out the page. I have a plain paper plate here. You could use any kind of plate or surface that you want, and I'm just going to go ahead and open it and gently sprinkle them onto the plate. As you can see, I have some stickier flowers here that have a little bit of a hard time and might need a nudge. Instead of trying to pick them up directly, I'm just going to try to slide them with my thumb. I have a variety of flowers and leaves here. I've kind of arranged them by color, shape, size, flower, just so that I can organize it for my flower arrangement. I'm pretty excited to start arranging my flowers into a bookmark. I'm going to be using clear packing tape. This is really fun because not only is it sturdy and hardy to be able to make a strong bookmark, but also you'll be able to see your flower from both sides, the front and the back. So what you can do is just go ahead and pull a little tape and use a pair of scissors to cut it. You're going to be wanting that sticky side facing up on a flat surface, and you don't have to cut it perfect because we will be trimming it at the end. I go ahead and start sticking my flowers on. There is no rhyme or reason to this. You can do it any way that you want. How I usually do it is I start in the middle and work my way out. And I oftentimes start with bigger flowers and sometimes add a couple of leaves or greenery accents, and then maybe scatter a couple different types of smaller flowers to it. I personally like things to be symmetrical, which means the same on either side. I've decided that I want to start with one of my bigger flowers here. believe this is an anemone flower. As you can see, it faded quite a bit after being pressed, but it still has a nice pale pink color to it. I'm going to go ahead and stick that nice and firm, patting down all of the sides very gently. You don't want to put your fingers all over the plastic. The oil on your fingers will show, and that doesn't make for the prettiest of bookmarks. If you do end up touching it, it's okay. Just try to avoid that if you can. Now that I have my main flower, I'm going to start working my way out, doing a little design. I usually like to find some green to go with, so I have a bigger leafy green, and I'm going to just pluck some pieces off of it and go ahead and frame my flower. If a little bit of the flower or leaf goes over the tape, that's okay. We can always trim that at the end too, but you're going to want to try to keep most of it on the tape so that way you can have it in your bookmark. Now that I've arranged all of my flowers how I would like them, it is time to put the other piece of tape on top. This can be a little bit of a tricky process, and I want to warn you that it might not turn out perfect the first time round. That's why we continuously practice our craft so that we can improve on it, which means that I might accidentally have a little bit of it overlapping, I might have some bubbles, and that's just something that happens when it comes to crafts. I'm going to go ahead and kind of measure out the length of the tape. You can always put a little bit longer just to make sure you're being safe. I'm going to go ahead and cut the tape, and here's how I like to put my tape on. I like to kind of turn it into a U shape and really look overhead at it so that I can see it from the top, and start from the middle, touching it down and slowly making my way out. Now, I can already see that I did not do a perfect job with this, but I did the best that I could, and that's a-okay. I'm going to go ahead and start sliding my hands up and down just to make sure that all of the bubbles have come out of it before I trim the edges and the ends. I'm going to go from where the tape ends and cut it horizontal. I had to cut a little bit of my flower, that's okay. I'm going to cut the other end so it's nice and even. And now I'm going to cut the edges just so that there's no sticky edges coming out and no leaves or flowers coming out either. Be very careful and go slow with this just so that you don't accidentally cut too far into your bookmark. Got one side. And I have the other. Here is my finished bookmark. Here is my second example, and it just goes to show that even if you make these over and over again, you can still make some mistakes. My plastic overlapped a little bit, so there's a bit of a crease, but guess what? It gives a character. I'm going to go ahead and show you a little way that you can dress up your bookmarks if you would like to. I'm going to take a hole puncher and just punch into the top of the bookmark. It should be pretty straightforward. Make sure you give yourself a little bit of space because you don't want it to eventually rip out. And then I'm going to take a little bit of ribbon to add to it. I will fold my ribbon in half for the length that I think it should be, about that long. And I'm going to go ahead and cut my ribbon. And here is how I'm going to put it in. I'm going to go ahead and put the ribbon in loop side in. Pull it out. And then I am going to lift up these two end bits and put them through the loop, just like so. When those two ribbons are through the loop, I'm going to really gently pull this because sometimes the plastic can rip, and if it does, you can always just take this off and add a little bit more tape to it just to make it a little stronger. But I'm going to go ahead and pull it a little bit, and then I'm going to trim the ends so that they are nice and even. Well, there you have it. Another example of a pretty fun pressed flower bookmark. Well, Gators, I hope you enjoyed making some pressed flower bookmarks with me. I hope it inspires you to read a nice thick chapter book in our library, and I will see you next month for our October monthly bonus. See you later!